When the cost of a place to live overtakes the dreams that you worked for, it's a clear signal that the system in place is failing. In the United States, when the average apartment costs about as much as a mortgage, but both are out of reach, the problem goes beyond inflation. That's a sign of collapse in a system that was supposed to be widely available to all of us. Cities that once honored artists and teachers now force them to live at the edge of society, squeezing out the very people that gave these places character and life. The average cute mountain town now rents for a minimum of $2,500 a month if you're lucky enough to even find a spot. That beach city that shaped your childhood has become a distant memory, priced far beyond your reach. Sometimes the comfort of returning home is impossible to attain, replaced by the truth of a market that's left so many behind. As owning a home gets harder, van life is gaining popularity. A path once embraced by minimalists has now become a lifeline for those priced out of the market. This change represents an ongoing battle with instability, as people trade one set of uncertainties for another in search of a place to call home. A lifestyle once seen as unusual is becoming a common response to a growing crisis. Van life is growing into a pressing social phenomenon, exposing the faults of a system that no longer works for everyone. The cost of rent is at historic highs across the United States, and van life has changed from a creative way of living to a necessity for many. For people left behind, van life now serves as one of the last few paths to creating stability. Initially, van life symbolized open roads with endless horizons and freedom, but now it reflects deeper economic pressures. Van life has become a growing response to economic changes and housing insecurity. As practical needs eclipse dreams of adventure, van life becomes a lifeline. It offers shelter and freedom in a world where traditional housing grows more elusive. Hitting the road means saving on rent and chasing new possibilities, but also facing new risks and the unknown. But even then, there's comfort. Waking up in a van brings possibility and calm that lowers financial worries. But van life was never supposed to be a permanent solution. It exposes a deeper problem in a country where millions can't afford a stable home. To understand why so many are turning to vans, we need to look back in time. Housing wasn't always this way. It was once seen as the cornerstone of the American dream. Housing was once promised as the reward for following the rules. Work hard and save diligently, and then maybe you can buy a home and build a life. But as the price of a place to live outpaces the dreams and effort poured into them, that promise begins to unravel, revealing itself as an illusion. After World War II, America struck a deal with its middle class. Federally backed mortgages and the GI Bill unlocked homeownership at a scale never seen before, but access came with limitations. Redlining and exclusionary policies set the boundaries. Those in power decided who had the chance to build equity and who was left behind. These are consequences that have only deepened over generations. Cities and towns then imposed new limits, like single-family zoning, minimum lot sizes, and bans on apartments. Policies made it illegal to build homes where the jobs were. Demand surged, supply plateaued, and prices soared. And at the same time, wages stagnated. Productivity and profits soared for businesses, but overall pay for the average worker lagged far behind. Housing costs raced ahead of workers' paychecks. What began as a small difference quickly grew into a barrier that shut people out. Then the 2008 financial meltdown arrived. Credit froze, foreclosures spiked, and builders vanished. The pipeline of new homes dried up, and we were never able to rebuild from it. Reinvestment returned to the cities, and they renewed neighborhoods, but it came at a cost. As areas became more desirable, longtime renters like artists, teachers, and service workers were gradually pushed out. The displacement became a part of daily life, and this could be found in rising rents, eviction notices, and sudden departures. The pandemic upended life as we knew it. Suddenly, remote work allowed millions to break free from office life, sending them in pursuit of the outdoors. Small cities and resort towns absorbed this new demand quickly. It reshaped their communities in the process. With few new homes being built, most of the pressure fell on what already existed. Prices soared, and longtime residents found themselves unable to compete for homes in their own neighborhoods. This brings us to now. Record high rents and scarce listings. People endure long commutes from distant counties, enjoying waiting lists for apartments and homes they may never see. The housing market feels like it's designed for someone else entirely. So people improvise. They settle into spare rooms, relocate farther from the city, or even make homes out of vans. Van life was once the dream, with open roads, golden sunsets, and the thrill of possibility. And for some, that spirit still endures. But now, van life is transformed from a symbol of adventure to a survival strategy. A way to press on when a lease or mortgage that was once the promise of security becomes just another locked door. Driven by a desire for more control and stability, many have turned to van life as an alternative to traditional housing. Life on the road means freedom from landlords, bidding wars, and unpredictable rent hikes. But it comes with its own set of challenges, like limited space, fewer comforts, and the problems of parking, showers, repairs, and staying warm in winter. Some months the budget is easy to balance. A paid-off van, careful mileage, and home-cooked meals can make a van more affordable than rent. Other times, unexpected repairs or long journeys can push costs up that rival a mortgage. If van life is a lifeline now, we should ask why so many people are reaching for it. How did we go from the post-war promise of a starter home to a generation priced out of their hometowns? How did policy, wages, credit, and a pandemic converge to make vans look more realistic than walls? When a van is the last key to a door that keeps slipping further away, the fault isn't on those searching for solutions. It's with the system that keeps moving the goalposts. Shelter always comes with a bill. Whether your shelter rests on a slab of concrete or runs in a truck stop, the cost will find you. It drains your savings, fills your schedule, and influences every move you make. Shelter shapes our daily lives and the way that we plan for the future. A lease, at first glance, buys predictability. At least that's what it says on paper. In 2025, the national average rent sits a little bit above $2,000 per month. Morgantown, West Virginia holds out under $1,000. But in resort towns like Aspen, workers are short 600 beds just to keep the economy functioning. Living conditions once standard are now considered luxurious. The lease renews, the rent rises, and suddenly the cost of staying becomes identical to the cost of leaving. A mortgage, by contrast, offers a sense of permanence, but always with conditions. Interest rates can change, property taxes can climb, and insurance premiums may rise with growing climate risks. The roof ages, the water heater fails, a neighbor decides to renovate, and the city reassesses your property value without your consent. You're growing your equity, but you're also taking on the risk of every single problem hidden within the walls. Van life doesn't erase financial pressures. It just rearranges them. There's still a bill to pay, but this time, you get to decide how to pay it. Your living space shrinks, your footprint lightens, and your budget becomes more flexible. Sometimes it costs less than $1,000 a month, including insurance, fuel, and food. Other times, expenses can climb higher than that, depending on travel, distance, and repairs. Fixed costs can show up quickly. Van payments can range from $200 to $500 per month. The national insurance averages to about $193 per month. Wi-Fi is important for remote work and adds another $165 for hotspots or Starlink. Variable costs are where the real trade-offs happen. Fuel costs can range between $100 and $500 per month, depending on how much you travel. Campsites might be free if you decide to boondock, or they can cost between $20 and $50 a night, depending on if you want a hot shower or extra security. The food costs totally depend on your habits. If you cook every meal, you could spend as little as $400 a month. If you eat out all the time, costs can climb to $15,000 a year. None of these expenses happen by chance. Each one is a choice. Every cost reflects what you value most: mobility, control, or convention. In apartments, you pay a premium for location, access to bars, public transit, and jobs. In a house, you pay for permanence, putting down roots, fences, and potential future value. In a van, you pay for possibility, the freedom to choose your direction and change your view whenever you want. Life on wheels is cheapest when you stay put and nothing breaks. Costs can soar if repairs catch you off guard. But in both cases, you have way more control over your life than most traditional leases and mortgages will allow. When rent feels like a trap and a mortgage like a gamble, van life can feel like a third path. The cost of shelter never disappears, but van life puts you in control, letting you decide what to spend, where to stay, and what really matters. Walls demand payment for certainty. Wheels require payment for freedom and choice. And for more people each year, that trade-off feels like the only one that's worth making. Living in a van promises freedom, but it also means stepping outside the protections of the system. When you're living out of a van, you're not fully housed or completely unhoused. You're somewhere in between. You slip between categories, zip codes, and laws, caught in a space without an address. There's no line on a census form that says mobile but stable. No policy accounts for the working adult who lives in a parking lot, that holds a full-time job, that showers in a gym. You might have steady income, insurance, and even savings. But without a permanent address, you can be denied the basic services. Things like mail, voting, and library cards, or even a place to register your business or receive official documents. You begin to realize just how deeply the system assumes your permanence, how every way of participating meaningfully in something is tied to a fixed address. A lot of cities enforce anti-camping ordinances, vehicle dwelling bans, and strict parking limits. You have to look for the warning signs. Things like no overnight parking, private property, or violators will be towed, otherwise you'll end up in trouble. You learn you have to stay in motion. You drive just far enough to avoid suspicion, just enough to blend in. You keep your windows covered, your lights dimmed, and you try to make as little noise as possible. Because discovery from someone can mean a ticket, a fine, or being forced to move in the middle of the night with nowhere to go. There's no lease to protect you. You're completely on your own out here. There's no tenant rights to invoke. You serve as your own landlord. You're your own maintenance crew, and your only line of defense. Van life offers freedom, but it also comes with invisibility. You become a resident of nowhere, even if you know the town better than the people who have homes. You work, shop, and contribute just like everyone else does to the same economy. But you exist in motion, which means you exist outside of everything. Outside the policy, the structure, and the safety net that was designed for someone else entirely. From the outside, van life appears to offer a clean break from the system. A way to drive away from debt, landlords, and everything else that once felt inescapable. But in reality, you never really leave the system. You're still tethered to it from the margins. Gas stations, grocery stores, laundromats, they all form the invisible thread that ends up pulling you back. The dream of total self-sufficiency lives and is perpetuated by social media. But the reality is far more complicated than that. Infrastructure is essential, no matter how far you roam or how little you pay. Many people in van life still carry student loans, credit card balances, or medical bills. And having freedom doesn't automatically exempt you from all the bureaucracy that surrounds us. You still need your driver's license, registration, emissions checks, and insurance renewals. A van may grant mobility, but never immunity from the system. Even minimalism has its price. Things like solar panels, composting toilets, and custom builds, none of it comes free. The average cheap lifestyle often begins with a $20,000 van and thousands more in upgrades. And for those who can't afford the extras, life turns into a constant act of improvisation. Repairs can come out of nowhere. A blown transmission, a cracked radiator, or a broken heater in winter can completely wipe out your savings. A lot of the free spots that you end up finding are not safe or scenic. You pay in stress, risk, or in hours searching for a place to rest. Paid spots offer more comfort and safety, but will quickly eat away at the budget that van life was meant to protect. The truth is, you don't escape the pressures of modern life. You renegotiate them. You trade square footage for square miles, stability for mobility, and landlord troubles for mechanical ones. Sometimes that trade is completely worth it. For some, having that freedom completely outweighs the fear. For others, it's the only option that they have left. I think that van life deserves to be seen as a legitimate, intentional way of living, and not just a fallback plan. Van life should not be the last refuge for working people, families, or retirees priced out of stable housing. As more Americans turn to van life just to stay afloat, we should focus less on romanticizing van life, and more on the systems and structures that are failing us. We need more than small fixes. We need whole structural solutions. Zoning reform can open the door to smaller but more affordable housing, especially in neighborhoods that have long excluded anything but single-family homes. When the government helps build affordable homes or supports community ownership, people can have a steady place to live without the prices jumping up and down. And for those who are living in their vehicles on the margins, policy changes around vehicle residency, safe parking programs, and address alternatives can give a lot of people access to the basic services they need. No single van, apartment, or house can fix a broken housing system alone. But thinking about who deserves shelter, how it's accessed, and what shape it takes is a place to start. Van life shouldn't be a penalty or a loophole. It shouldn't require stealth, sacrifice, or constant movement just to find safety. If the system worked as it should, fewer people would be forced onto the road by necessity. They would be there by choice. We should demand dignity, security, and the courage to build something better. Now I want to hear from you. What would it take for us to reimagine and demand a world where everyone has a place to call home? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll engage with you there. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel for more van life, outdoor, and travel content. And before you go, check out my next video right here to see how AI is affecting travel planning. I'll see you over there.